We're back. We're back. We're back. Hello, hello, everybody. It's been a long time, but we're back. Back here, ready to discuss some Knicks, ready to discuss some basketball. The season is not that far away now. Training camp opens, I think, in like 6 weeks or something. So things are coming, and we hopefully can get you guys prepared, get you ready, and entertain you a little bit tonight. It's our first show in a little over a month, so we've been enjoying our summer, enjoying the nice weather and vacationing and all that fun stuff. But we are here and we're back and we're ready to bring you some Knicks news. So let me bring in Ty first because Joe's a little late. So Ty, what's up, man?
We're back.
Yes, we are. We're back, man. It's been a while. I feel like haven't talked. I mean, I talk to you almost every day, but I feel like I haven't seen you in a while. It's crazy.
There's no visual aid. We talk through the typing and the thumbs, but the visual aid always helps. So.
Yeah. So, what you been up to, man? What have you been doing this summer?
Man, clearly not working on my tan. I'm looking at this lighting in here. It's not dark enough. Something's. I don't know. I'm feeling a little bad. I mean, I think the Bahamas. Somebody's calling me.
Are you going somewhere? Are you going?
wish, but they've been calling. They're calling. I feel a little psychic moment here. Maybe it's Miss Cleo. I don't know what's the name. Radio Miss Cleo on Lifetime. Maybe the vibes is coming there. I think that's what it is. But I think the Caribbean is calling me. I just don't know when I will go, but it's calling.
Yeah, you usually do get there. I
Yeah.
know that. I know you are a fan of the Caribbean, so you usually do get there in the summer. I've been traveling a lot. It's just been for work.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I've been going to all these different places, but it's not for leisure. It's just work.
Yeah.
I try and get into little things here when I go to these places because a lot of them are remote. Like they're not big cities. They're towns near big cities. So you got to usually drive like an hour once I get there, and then
Gotcha.
I do my work. So yeah, I mean, some of them there's some cool little cities that I've been to, these little towns. I was just in Oregon a couple weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
Um, I'd never been out there before. I'd never been to the West Coast. I didn't get a chance to go to the ocean like I wanted to, but I just didn't have the time. But man, yeah, I've been seeing lots of this country,
Well,
just not for fun.
good side of the country, or has it been relatively good? Been
Yeah,
trans-
it's been
okay, good.
yeah, it's been. I mean, everything everywhere I go. I mean, the people are very nice,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't have any complaints about anywhere I've been. It's not like I'm not going to these I'm not going to any bad areas or underdeveloped areas. They're just lesser developed areas. When you come from somewhere like here where everything is so accessible and it's easy to get places, you have a really great mass transit system. Everything that we have here, I kind of take for granted.
Mm-hmm.
And some of these places don't have that. So it's just been cool to see all of that. And to see that other parts of the country that I never would have been exposed to before.
There you go.
So
There you go.
it's been very, very cool. So a
That's what.
lot's happened basketball this summer.
Yes.
A lot has happened internationally anyway. We do know that we had the Olympics, and I kind of miss them already. I do enjoy the Olympics, so
Mhm.
not usually. It's weird. I don't really watch the basketball that intently. I watch everything else
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because basketball we can watch. We have seasons for that here, so we get to watch plenty of it. But this is a basketball show, so we need to focus on Team USA, who of course did win the gold medal. So uh, there were some scary moments on this ride. This was not a smoother ride as I think a lot of people expected. Especially when the team is calling themselves the greatest team ever assembled. Everyone's calling them the greatest team ever assembled.
Mm.
Um, I mean, we could be biased. We're older, so maybe we will always will pick the dream team, and
Uh-huh.
um, the world has caught up as well. So the dream team obviously had an easier path, I think, than this team had. Now, most of the best players in the NBA are international players, if you think about it,
Absolutely.
right? So, what was your impression? I know you didn't love the construction of the team because we had talked about that, but what was your impression with their run and how close of attention did you pay to it?
I didn't really pay. I mean, I score watched a lot. When I do watch the Olympics, which I didn't get a chance to watch as much as I usually would be involved. It's usually track and field. That's like my
Right.
thing. always enjoyed the track and field aspect of the Olympics. To me, Olympics spells track and field. I wouldn't even watch it for really the basketball, to be very honest, because
Mm-hmm.
the impression in my mind is that we're going to win gold,
Right.
and there should be no moment, But lo and behold, in following it, I was like, wow, there are some moments that have happened with this team that for me, being a person who obviously witnessed the Dream Team, which I still think is the best collective team put together in sports. I don't mean just basketball. I'm just saying, when are you ever going to see a team assembled with that much talent? Famous talent on top of it, guys that molded the league that they actually played in. They're synonymous with the league. They brought it up to whatever level it is now. Obviously, Michael Jordan, skyrocketing the league once he took over the reins. So, you won't see that. You won't see a Tom Brady and a Peyton Manning on the same team. There's no way. Maybe baseball, you might see it in an all-star, maybe a little bit, but you won't see Barry Bonds and Greg Maddux and all these guys playing together. No. For me, my bias is knowing that I grew up watching those guys. I knew how superior they were during their time in their reign. And to be able to, and even the subsidiary players, if you want to even call Karl Malone that, is an MVP. So there's no way I think you could ever, the weak spots, if you wanted to say weak, and I'm rolling my eyes even saying that, is what Chris Mullin. Who wouldn't want Chris Mullin on their team? Who wouldn't want Clyde Drexler on their team? These guys are synonymous with being great players for their franchise and highly competitive people with great resumes, because we know Mullin from being, even if you didn't know Mullins in the pros, you knew him about him being at St. John's. I know you know that. That's alma mater.
Right.
Hell of a player, one of my favorite players, growing up, watching the collegiate game. Everybody knew Patrick. All these things. This was the best assembled team, in my opinion, period, in all of sports. So now when we segue into this current team, USA, because they dropped the people don't maybe realize that. They went from being Dream Team to Dream Team 2. And then it was like, well, they ain't really that much dreaming after 2. So the Team USA, because they just felt like it was just a little bit, okay, we are dreaming if we think that there's Christopher Williams dreaming. You really are thinking you're dreaming at that point if you think that those teams were even on the same echelon as those. Although I think Dream Team 2 kind of gets a little bit ignored in a sense, because that team assembled was a very good and talented team.
It was.
The front line was, in my opinion, better than the Dream Team front line. When you think about having Shaq, having Hakeem Olajuwon, two very dominant forces who've owned the guys who were in that first echelon of the Dream Team. So in seeing that, for me, I'm looking at this team coming in, I'm like, well, we've heard all the braggadocio. We heard that these guys are going to be some of the best guys to ever play. This team was assembled because Jalen Brunson, our boy, our captain, that team failed. And a lot of people are like, oh, now we're going to bring in the big guns. So let's bring in the big guns, because they're going to show these guys, the Jalen Brunsons and everyone else, how to win. So in lieu of seeing that, you have to, believe that this team is going to come out and have something to prove, because they are the best assembled team, and probably because LeBron's on the team. Well, lo and behold, when watching all of this and now seeing the results at one of the games, was it South Sudan? South Sudan, was it?
Well, they played South Sudan when they were doing the friendlies before the Olympics. Yes, yeah. They played them.
Mm-hmm. And then that was the one team that, when watching that, I'm like, uh-oh, this is a ruh-roh moment. I'm like, this nation has been, LeBron's older than their nation. That's literally, he's been playing basketball longer than their nation. So, and definitely in seeing that, you would tend to think and believe that would come along where, they shouldn't be nowhere in the gym when these guys roll out the carpet. And lo and behold, what do you see come along? You see that team push them to the brink where it took a last-second layup to basically get some separation. And that, to me, was a fail for that Dream Team, or whatever team you want to call this as. Because I'm like, there's no way that team should ever be in the same gym. And what we saw along the lines, like I said, I did more score watching than anything. What do you end up seeing happening? You end up seeing teams still pushing to the brink, and you saw Steph Curry have to bail them out one too many times. And, when the MVP discussion obviously came up, LeBron, was the foregone conclusion. But he was saved. Steph became his Ray Allen in a lot of ways because he has 2 bronze medals on his watch. I think people realize that he does have 2 bronze medals on his watch as being one of the more important players on those prior teams, whether FIBA or whatever, World Cups. He has 2 bronze on his resume, and to think that we are talking about the best team, that they want to believe this is the best team assembled, and you basically played against Jokic and somebody else, and they almost bounced you too. And now you got to Australia. I mean, that's not Australia. Got to France, and France, you know, they're still cleaning up LeBron's chalk line from that dude. What's his name? Yasser, whatever his name is. Yasevich, I think.
Oh yes.
He called it.
Usabella or Usabelle or
his nickname in French is called body bag. That's what it's called. It means body bag in French because he caught LeBron in a body bag. There's no doubt about that. So best team, one of the maybe a good team. I don't want to say they're the best team because the best to me is still the best teams don't get stopped. They don't get the dream team. Granted, people say, "Oh, well, they didn't have the same competition," which is understandable. They didn't. The international game grew out of dream team. That's how the international game really grew. But there's no way if you put Michael Jordan in the modern game and those other dogs that they're letting any of those teams ego-wise even get close to 5 or 10 points. They're not. They're not. Michael Jordan would choke all of his teammates if they were losing by 5. If you don't believe it, listen to the Chris Webber story about when they snuck one on the Dream Team in practice.
I know. Yes, I remember that.
And for one whole, they couldn't score for one whole quarter the next game because they were like,
I remember that. Yeah.
No, we're not gonna have you guys ever thinking you can beat us. So.
Well, let's bring in the biggest international basketball fan there is. Let's bring Joe, because I know how much Joe loves the international basketball game. He loves FIBA. So, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Just had to put out some last minute fires, work stuff.
I hear you.
But this is a perfect segment, not for me not to contribute on because I have nothing to add.
I mean, well, you can add value in a way that the question that I'm asking on the screen. I'm assuming you would probably side with us on this one, that the first Dream Team was the best one ever put together. This has been an argument since this team was announced. They have been saying they're the best team ever put together. A lot of pundits agree with that. I mean, I said it before when we first started this conversation. I said to Ty, I'm like, obviously, international basketball has gotten a lot better since '92. Yeah. Like they've gotten better. And I've even brought up that a lot of the best players in the NBA are international players. So, but where do you stand on this?
Like I said, don't really pay too much attention to the Olympics. I do know who's on the team this year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I would have to go with the Dream Team. But to tell you the truth, even if it wasn't true, I would have to go to the Dream Team because that's like my era, my team.
Right. Yeah.
Guys. But the guys that were on that team, maybe some of them not exactly at the very peak of their powers. I think Bird was a little long in the tooth. Mm-hmm. Some of those other guys. Still, there were some immortal basketball players on that team. Just an incredible team. And my man Patrick was on it. And I got all the love for Patrick. Mm-hmm. But again, it's every year. Every 4 years, we assemble really this ridiculous, assemblage of talent, this all-star team that we put forth. And I just think it's weird we're losing, but, we're winning by like 4 or 6 points to some of these teams that have no business playing with us. And I understand the game is a little bit different, but.
Yeah, it is. That's a good point.
I understand the game's different, but still, I guess in the United States of basketball, we're always told that talent prevails above all. And I mean, it obviously did. They won a gold and they've won a lot of golds, but they've also won bronzes, just like you're saying. Mm-hmm. With teams, when you match it up and you're like, all right, what am I not catching in this equation here? How could this possibly happen? But, I thought I kind of feeling Canada was going to go further than it did just as somebody who casually looks at this stuff, I was kind of surprised to see them not really in at least the silver chase.
Yeah, Jamal Murray was not good. That's essentially what it boiled down to. He had a really bad tournament. I don't know how healthy he is. I know he played, but again, we knew he was struggling with injuries during the season, so
Yeah.
I don't know how healthy he was. But I do know that RJ played well. I do know that Shea played well. So those guys did ball out. It's just I don't think they have the presence inside yet. I think they're lacking big men right now. So if they had that, maybe. But yeah, I mean, whenever I hear people debate this, I just go to two things. I just say these are the two things that I think why this team is better, or the Dream Team was better. First, they had better big men, and they were more physical. That's number one.
Big time.
And number two, they had arguably the two best perimeter defensive players ever to play the game in Jordan and Pippen. So, I mean, not that this team, obviously, it's a different league now with the 3-point shot. And Curry, when he's on, is indefensible. There's literally no way to stop him when he's hitting a shot. So he always would give them a chance. And of course, LeBron is just a physical marvel, and he could play that way with anybody. If not, he'll flop about it. But if he puts his head down, he can definitely play that style. So yeah, I mean, this team is obviously Kevin Durant. I think is one of the greatest players ever. But this team has a lot of talent. I just think defensively, the '92 team would have been better. That's my opinion. So that's where I stand on it. But it's an interesting topic, and it's been one that's been discussed across the board, all over the place. So I just wanted to bring that up and lead with that story with Team USA. But they did win the gold, as I said. And the women did too. And both of them struggled against France. They both played France. And both of them had to fight and claw to beat France. Wemby was fantastic in the gold medal game.
That was my team that I said.
Yeah.
That's what have an issue with. It was going to be France because the only thing that France was really missing was a younger Evan Fournier. Because if they had a younger Ev, who was a sniper, I know you New Yorkers don't want to hear whatever he was, but the dude could ball out, and especially in the FIBA tournament, he's always been an electric, different type of player. Even Frank is better than FIBA Frank.
It's true, he is. He's better.
That style of basketball always fits him. They needed snipers because if they had shooters and they had the Wembanyama, and Gobert was sitting for some of the games, where I understand he was actually benched or he came off the bench or whatever the story was, in lieu of the guy actually that the Knicks.
He's got Wemby playing in front of him.
Yeah, Wemby,
that's why he sat down.
Wemby should be playing in front of that dude.
Yeah.
But when you look at the totality of that team, had they had better shooters, the U.S. may take that out. They may take the L, but that's why I thought they would be able to control the boards a little bit better. They could be just as physical as the U.S. can be. The shooting was the aspect that I thought that they were missing, because the little bit of the game that I did see, the final game, they seemed just a little choppy setting up in their offense, and that was to me the key thing. And the U.S. obviously have the best shooter, period. I don't even think there's a question mark about Steph Curry. He's just, I'm a Larry Bird fan, and I'm going to tell you, Larry was definitely the one I want with the ball in his hand towards the end of the game. But the best shooter I've ever seen was Steph Curry. It's not even a question mark at this point.
Yeah, I mean, the way he, like I said, when he's hot, it's just forget it. It's it's not even a contest. He is
even
so
the next
good.
tier of great shooters, there's a lot of separation there. When you look at like Reggie Miller, Ray Allen, and stuff, which are probably the next tier of great shooters, there's a gap there, like a sizable gap between him and the next tier.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I definitely would agree with that as well. So, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens in 4 years, because obviously, more than likely, LeBron, KD, and Steph are not going to be on that team.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be interesting to see who we send amongst the young guys. I mean, people have talked about Cooper Flag already being on that team, Chet Holmgren being on that team. So like they're the younger guys that they're talking about. Obviously, Ja Morant, if he gets his act together, I'm sure will be on that team. So it's going to be an interesting 4 years.
I have a question for you guys. do you guys feel? I mean, because bringing up the full story, they said that the world is better. As far as basketball talent, are they really just better? I mean, when you think about the league, we talk about the NBA. I've been saying it for the last 3 or 4 years. I said the best 5 players in the NBA are international players. So
Yeah.
when we look at these guys come out and they go, "Oh, this is the best team assembled," blah 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 blah. Maybe U.S. basketball is not the best basketball being played on the planet. Maybe that is the story to talk about, because when you're looking at these guys, clearly the physical talent, the U.S. seems to be more superior that way. But we're talking about the fundamental game of basketball, where somebody might go into a zone. Like we see LeBron James, and it's not any diss against him, because everybody thinks when you criticize him that you hate him. It's not really about that. He is one of the most fundamentally flawed players to be as great as he is.
Yeah,
flawed. He has like no go-to move whatsoever. His off the dribble package is below average. His IQ and his physicality is what has made him absolutely an elite player in this league. When we talk about a guy who can't take JJ Barea off the bounce, nor Steph Curry, or had an older Jason Kidd guard him and give him problems, that's due to the fundamentals of the game that he lacks, because maybe he did skip college and never had the training. But it goes back and it lends to the idea that when you look at these guys, maybe U.S. basketball as a product or whatever is not as elite as it used to be. When you go back to that dream team, you had a lot of college players, the first dream team. Those guys were collegiately seasoned and league seasoned. So there was that double layer of that you competed in college at a high level, and as well as you came into the league competing at a high level. There's a time it was unheard of to shoot under 50% as a guard. Under 50% was unheard of. So now you got these guys who are shooting 44% to the line, other than like a guy like Kevin Durant, who's beyond efficient. I mean, he's the upper crust of efficiency in this era of basketball. But how many guys are like that? A lot of long distance shots, low percentage shots. Dudes don't know how to post. Our boy Jalen Brunson is one of the best post players in the league, and he's one of the shortest guys. So let's get back to the idea that maybe U.S. basketball is not as great as people think it is.
And they don't know how to defend the post either, which is why Jokic feasts. Eric, I'm going to kick this over to you, man, because this has you written all over it. You've been saying for years that the Europeans prepare and learn the game of basketball in a completely different way than they do in the States.
Yes,
and you can see that on the floor in the product.
Yeah, they do. I mean, they're brought up in a system. They get picked out. It's similar to how they do it with soccer. These guys get picked out early, and then they get brought up in a system where they're playing like with their club. They have club teams at younger ages. They get assigned to club teams. They start playing them through the system. They still go to school and everything, but they are taught the game, and they stress fundamentals there. It's why most European leagues, the veterans play more than even the young star rookies, because they know the game better, and that's how they train their players. I mean, you think about guys who were drafted here high internationally, outside of Luka. I mean, KP came off the bench for his Spanish team. I mean, there are other players outside of Luka who, I mean, he was just so good you couldn't sit him. But the other guys who were drafted that early, they were not starter players. They usually came off the bench early in their careers, and as they got older in Europe, that's when you get the experience, and then they play you. They'll start you. So it's very different to how we do it here, where everything it's kind of like pay for play in a lot of instances, where you have these AAU clubs and you have all these teams, and they're essentially not developing. They're just putting together these super teams, and these guys are going out and playing, and just basing it on their talent and ability, where all these guys are just really, really talented players, and they're that much better. So the training that our players get normally is for their school teams. So you have school coaches and high school coaches where they're grooming these players, but high school coaches are also teachers, right? So there's not a system or a pipeline that we have in this country outside of AAU ball. And to me, AAU ball doesn't really teach much. So we're seeing it now that as the European players have started to learn the NBA game, they're much faster to adapt to it, and they could come here and play. And then you see they immediately they go back to international ball, and sometimes they're even better. So like you have this, the way that they play and the way that they're taught, and they come here and they're able to slip right in. I do think that's why someone like Wemby and Jokic was a second round pick, and you have these guys who just weren't, but they come in right away, and coaches in the NBA don't have to worry about them teaching them fundamentals or stressing fundamentals. That's just how they play.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very interesting difference because the United States usually has the best athletes. We have more people than most of these countries. So it's very, just by numbers, you're easier to find athletes, and athletes always gravitate to usually basketball and football now. Those are the two sports.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so there's this huge difference in how the game is taught and how it's played when we're with our youth. And I think we're starting to see that the European guys, when they come in, they're just farther ahead.
Mm-hmm.
So,
something, you mentioned Luka Doncic, and I remember hearing about this kid before he was even drafted. It came over to the NBA, and looking into him and seeing that he was starting on Real Madrid at like 18 and realizing how unusual that was. I mean, just even looking at some of the players, like when we were looking at Franklin Ntilikina, because he was going to, potentially be drafted by us or be drafted in the range where we picked, and seeing that he was still playing like youth ball and everything like that. It's just interesting. I remember seeing that and realizing what an outlier that was in European basketball, and figured this kid's obviously amazing.
Yeah.
We were told that at one point that we didn't know if he could lead. Eric will remember that conversation. And we had like a little barroom brawl in our thread over this about whether or not someone can lead, whether he could lead. When you hear a guy like Jalen Brunson speak about Luka when he first came in, he was like, the vets were in awe of him because they said, no way this kid should be this good. And he came in, and instantly they knew he was that good. So the question was whether or not he could just, hone his game to become a winner in the NBA. But the talent, he was definitely one of the better players. And I know Eric and I've talked about him ad nauseum. We wish that we could have gotten, obviously, Luka Doncic during that time, because could we move up to get him? Because, to me, I just saw two guys. I saw LeBron James and I saw Jason Kidd. Granted, I wish he would defer more like those guys can, but that was the earlier version of him. He was just a stocky, big kid who had a lot of great talent and was clutch. And he's a special. I thought he was special before he even got here, because Eric was the one that brought him up into our attention. He's the Euro dude. He's our Euro scout. Euro scout. And man, we watched the kid play. He's awesome. He's awesome. He's a talent.
Yeah, he's definitely the special case. Like I said, a lot of the guys over there, like when they're young, they don't start. But he was a special case. Ricky Rubio got a lot of time when he was young as well, because he was just a fantastic passer, and that played out too bad. He could never really develop a jump shot, but he always was a really good passer and floor general.
He was a good defender.
Yeah, he was a good defender as well. So, well, Ty, you brought up Brunson referencing Luka, and of course, that's a great segue because Brunson became our captain. Mm-hmm. I don't think this surprised anybody, to be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's a great honor for him. That I guess message that Ewing did, that was fantastic. Like that was just unbelievable for someone like, I know Joe, I know you're a big fan of his, and so am I. So Patrick, so yes, just that kind of. I'm not going to say I got choked up, but it was kind of cool.
I got a little
yeah, it was very cool. Ty, I know you're not the biggest Patrick fan, but I think he was he our last captain?
He was.
The last captain was Lance Thomas.
I think Melo.
Oh yeah, Lance Thomas. That's right.
I had a good laugh when I read that.
Yeah,
that was the last captain.
Pretty pathetic too.
Okay.
On that one, I want to know, was that like a Fizdale thing, or was it that was probably
Oh,
before?
I'm not sure. It has some fizzle written all over it somewhere down the line.
You
Wasn't
gotta
he like
find
using
somewhere.
him like a star? Like he was. I think it was Fizzle who was using him as a star. Because who else was in between that? It wasn't D'Antoni. So it had to be Fizzle. Fizzle with a
Maybe
whistle.
Phil?
Nah,
I don't-
I think it was Fizzle.
What?
It
Phil?
wasn't Derek Fisher. No.
I don't think it was Phil.
I think
What
it
about
was.
Hornacek?
Was it
Oh,
Hornacek?
what was it? Fizzle or Hornacek? It looks like a Fizzle move.
It definitely does.
I mean, Hornacek followed Fisher, and then I think they brought in Fizdale after that.
It smells like
Fizdale seemed like like a Steve Mills type of timeline.
Oh, but let me take that back. Wasn't Melo on the team with Lance? So,
He was.
So he wasn't
I'm sure
with
he loved
Fizzle.
that.
So Melo wasn't during Fizzle. No, because that's the Julius Randle era. So no. So it must have been. So we're either Hornacek or Fisher.
So here we go. So
I think we might be. I think
Carmelo Anthony was a captain. I could say that.
Yeah.
Courtney Lee was a captain.
Man, we flew a long way.
Eddie Curry was a captain.
Well, that C was for the Curry, you know. Yeah,
He was the captain of takeout.
Cuisine. That C was for cuisine.
All right, Stevie Francis and Stephon Marbury were both captains.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense. Well, that was disastrous. Wow,
that's nuts, man.
Yeah, we've come a long way.
We're in a really good spot now, so we forget how dark the well went at different points. How many levels the elevator went down.
That's true, though. It's a very good point.
You hear those that's cringeworthy.
It is. That's just wow. That's really bad. I didn't even know that. Okay, so congratulations to Jalen. Again, not surprised. If it wasn't going to be him, if they were going to name a captain, I could have seen it being Josh Hart, but he's too silly. But the way he plays on the court, you can see that like that's being captain. But I think he's just too silly off the court, so that's why he didn't get it. But congratulations and lead us to a championship. That's all I care now. I don't care about anything else.
Yeah,
that's all I want.
Hopefully, it brings some prestige to the captaincy once more.
Yeah,
I think
hard to top Lance.
Yeah, I don't know. He's got a high bar.
Wasn't Ricky Lito a captain too? Did I miss that?
That was Summer League. You're mixing your leagues up now. That was Summer League. Ricky Lito was captain over there.
You know what was shocking to me was the actual. I mean, Ewing made sense. Obviously being he has a relationship with Jalen, also obviously with Rick, being part of the teams. But what I found amazing was because the video came to me in little pieces. I didn't realize whoa, there's more people. And it was amazing to see the celebration by former captains of all the sports in New York.
Yep.
The Mark Messier's, and they were going through. I'm like, damn, who are they going to pull out? Who's coming up there? Freddie Jackson. I mean, it was like literally they were just bringing out star after star after star. And I guess it speaks to the Knicks media department. Let's give them credit for that too. But it also speaks, they couldn't force those guys to actually get on camera and speak great about Brunson. So it must be definitely something in the water with this kid that everybody tends to respect and gravitate towards. So I thought that was kind of amazing that outside of just basketball in general, all the sports captains came forth and gave him his flowers early, and that was great.
Yeah, even current captains like Aaron Judge was in that. I know Aaron Rodgers was in that as well. Mm-hmm. Eli Manning was on that thing. So there was a lot of past and present captains paying their respects. So it was cool. That was very cool that they did that and they had that little bit of celebration for him there. Mm-hmm. So In player news, everyone was worried about a backup center. Well, we signed one.
Mhm.
It was the guy that we had. So Precious Achua has re-signed with the Knicks. Right now, I would say he is the backup center, but we have seen a lot of videos around one Jericho Sims this summer and how he's been working out, how he's been improving his offensive game. Yes, so a center with offense, like, wow, what are we doing here?
Mhm.
Shooting the ball, I know, a crazy concept.
The hair
But
is not in the hair. The hair is this way now with the strap.
yeah. So how do you guys see that working out? Ty, I know I'll go to you first because I know you brought up the fact that OG might get a lot of minutes at backup center if they go small. So how do you see what we've been seeing from Sims, re-signing Achua, that backup center spot? Because we know with Mitch, it's going to probably come that they're going to need it.
Yeah.
So
Well, you know how I am about when I see anybody actually working on offense that is a big five. I'm like, you're not running any of that. I don't know why you're even working on it. You know, we know where you're gonna go. You're not doing any of those threes. You're not gonna have any of those shining moments. We know what your job is. What is it like that? You know, was it when you go to Staples and you got that button, the easy button that you can buy at Staples, that big red button, the easy. The easy thing is that you are going to take your butt right to the rim, and you are there to block shots and rebound, and you're there to set screens. That's what the five position is. However, when talking about Tom Thibodeau, usually what happens to guys in the offseason, he does give you an idea of what you need to go work on. I've been someone who's been talking about it a little bit about, I think maybe what we're seeing from Jericho Sims is that maybe he's not going to be positioned for the five. I think he might be backing up Julius Randle because everything he's working on is what somebody would want from a four, not a five. Because why go work on your three-point shot? Granted, he's in a contract year. Maybe he wants to show his versatility. We know he won't be able to show that in the game. But I'm under the same mindset. They like Sims. They kept resigning Sims. We're waiting for Sims to develop into something. I would just find it hard to believe that they know this guy who's going to be an important piece to them, that they would have him working on something he wouldn't use. So I'm of the mindset that maybe he is going to be a backup four. You know, he's got great lateral quickness. He's good at that. You know, what he is that we didn't know if he had any offensive game other than the lob threat. That's what you've been basically seeing from him for 3 years. Then looking at a guy like Achua, and Eric pointed this out very well, that he was more efficient playing the five position. He was very efficient playing the five. So,
yep.
you know, that's one of his best numbers, and he did his best work is at the five. So when looking at that, I do wonder whether or not he is going to basically play behind Julius as a four, or maybe a hybrid four, hybrid five. I don't know. But in the same sense, I'm looking at what Fred Katz talked about a month or two ago, was about the fact that Tom Thibodeau was leaning towards, before OG Anunoby got hurt, of using him at the five. That was something that he had contemplated or was thinking about. And lo and behold, we know what OG did. OG did what OG always does. He got injured at some point. That got completely scrapped. And here we are, you know, back to square one as far as filling out the backup five position. Now, to me, it makes sense, not for OG to maybe play the five, but a small ball five lineup is what's really prevalent in the NBA now. That's how the Celtics kind of even won. Playing, they had Al Horford there for the longest time. We know KP had injuries and all that stuff. But even prior to KP, when they went to the finals and all that stuff, it was either a Robert Williams type or it was an Al Horford type. The small ball five actually works. I mean, Draymond Green is a center. You go figure that out. He plays the center. That's what the league is like now. We have two big guys, in my opinion, that are at fives, and that's in Embiid, who's the traditional five. And then we got Jokic, who's like a 7-foot point guard. He's not even a 5'5". So would it behoove the Knicks to actually use a small ball five? Absolutely. Now the question is, who is that five going to be and be sustainable? Because Mitchell's going to go down at some point. I hate to say it. I pray he doesn't. But we already know what the story has been every year of his career. He's going down with some fluke injury or whatever, and we don't have him for 70 games or 80 games or whatever. Precious is good. I mean, my joke was when OG was out, I said this was the Precious Achua trade. It was the OG trade because he was contributing more, and I think he shocked a lot of us on what he was able to do for the Knicks. He had moments against Embiid also. That block shot from 3 from long range. He's had some good showings. I do believe that he is probably going to be the resident backup 5, which he probably should be. He's going to be undersized, but the Knicks as a team is undersized anyway. It's nothing new. Sims would be great, but I think he's a 4. I'm betting that they told him to go work on his position as a 4 and not as a 5.
That's an interesting take. I didn't even think of it, but I could. It does make a lot of sense. So I could definitely see that happening. Joe, what's your take on the center position? Do you think Sims is going to get minutes there? Do you think that's going to be his primary spot? Do you think they still look somewhere else and try and back it up with another player?
Okay. So let me just preface this whole thing by saying this is the only area of the roster that concerns me. Mm-hmm. Again, I think about the way the Knicks have been successful playing basketball, and I don't know a full season of Precious Achua being our primary backup center really works, despite what the analytics say. I think moving OG Anunoby there is a big problem for the simple reason that OG Anunoby, for a man of his size and strength, is a poor rebounder. It's a weakness in his game. He's not a strong rebounder at all. If you look at what they've historically got out of that position, it's offensive rebounding and shot blocking. The offensive rebounding is one of the reasons that we've been as good of an offensive team as we have been, efficiency-wise. I think the development of Jericho Sims, I wouldn't look too much into that. I think they're just trying to develop players and to see what they've got in him. They may discover something along the lines with him that can turn into a weapon. They're trying to, I think, develop him as a player. I think that practice videos can be misleading. It depends on whether he can do it in practice in the game. I think it's good that they're trying to develop players and trying to develop their games and not really putting them into some kind of mold that they want. I think Jericho Sims is not a center, probably not skilled enough to be a power forward. I think he's a bench guy. I don't see him having a really big role. But then again, I said the same thing about McBride, and I was wrong about that. You see them develop McBride. McBride has stepped up to be a player that I didn't think necessarily he could become, so I'm fully prepared for the possibility that is also true of Jericho Sims. Maybe we have the infrastructure in this organization now that we've always hoped that we've had and we never did have. And that's the ability to take something up, polish it up, and turn it into something better than it came in. My personal belief on what's going to happen this season is we are going to take the 2 protected picks and a swap, and we're going to get another center in. And I think we're going to blow past the second apron. There's not as much of an incentive for us to really worry about the second apron this year if we're making a move to go all in right now. Half of our picks we don't have right now. And the picks that we do have are going to be in the 20s or something like that. So that whole lose your first round pick or it goes to the end of the first round doesn't really apply to us. The second apron isn't as scary because we are going to sign our guys and we're going to have them locked in for a while. So the flexibility isn't going to be as important as a team that's trying to retool and or rebuild on the fly. Dolan will spend the money. I completely believe that. I believe, honestly, they are going to make a move with what limited assets they have. They're going to bring somebody in that maybe somebody doesn't want as much. I would love to see it be a Jalen Duren. Detroit could get their pick back. I'm sure that might be more attractive. That pick is more attractive to Detroit than any other team in the NBA. Maybe they get the pick back. They get the Washington pick. We throw a swap in there somewhere later on, maybe 2030 or something like that. And we see if we can get that done. I think something like that is going to happen. I think we're in a push the chips in the center of the table mode right now. Screw the second apron. It doesn't really matter. And push it
not to you. You don't have to pay it.
That's it. Dolan will be fine. Trust me. But that's
I don't
my
like what this.
position.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I think people are being a little premature about Detroit's prospects when they have a lot of talent. So in my head, what's to say they can't have one of those seasons where everything comes together and they have a great year? They have the talent for it, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, exactly. Yeah, we'll get their pick. So that would be perfect. Hopefully it's around like 14, like right where we could get the pick. Right there.
I think it's less than that now. I think the protection went down from last year to this year. I think it's one of those type of deals.
I still think it's 1 to 13. I think that's what I read, but you might be right. I don't know. But even if it's 14, that would be nice. Like I'd be fine with that kind of a pick. That would be nice.
Draft I heard is very top heavy, and like you got at least 20 guys they believe.
Right. If you could be if you could be a good team and then still get a fairly nice early first round pick, that's a very good thing as well. So, do you have any ideas who you said Duran, is he the only guy you think? Is there anyone else that you think they might try? Kessler was brought up during the season. Do you see Kessler as being?
It would have to be somebody on a rookie contract because I don't think that we could take that
Both
much
of them
back.
Yeah.
I keep hearing Robert Williams from Portland, but I don't think that that's really a possibility. He's another guy
Richards
that's all the time. Jonas Valanciunas I've heard mentioned, but he really doesn't do absolutely everything that we need in the center. Although he's a very good basketball player. So I mean, I've heard names and everything like that, but not anything that makes sense. Ideally, it would be someone on a rookie contract that coming up like Duran on the extension, and they go, you know what, this isn't somebody we're throwing a max slot at. Let's see what we can get. I really like Sengun from I'm probably mispronouncing his name.
Sengun?
Sengun, thank you. Yeah. From Houston.
Yeah.
That would be great. I think this team would do really well with a proficient post playing center. But that would be the ideal. I would rather have him than Duran, actually.
I have no idea what Thibodeau would do with someone like Sengun. That's the only problem. I have no idea. I mean, you would think it wouldn't be hard of a transition since he coached Yao, he coached Patrick.
Put him on the block.
No, I agree. I agree with you, but he doesn't. That's not the way he coaches anymore. I wouldn't think it would be. Yeah.
What's Sengun's career? That's what he's destroy that kid's career.
I mean, I agree with you, Joe. I agree with you. I think he's a fantastic player, and I'd love to add him. But I just don't see the fit here with the way the coach coaches now. 20 years ago, I would be like, okay, I can see it.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But again, it is a position that's going to be volatile, even though we signed, like I said, we signed Sims. I mean, we have Sims and we signed Precious back. I'm more optimistic with Sims because we saw this with McBride. Mm-hmm. They put their time in with him so much so that they felt confident enough to trade quickly because they felt, and then keep him at that contract, sign him right away. And I think they probably see the same thing in Sims in some aspect. It's harder to tell because he's such a mild-mannered, quiet guy. Yeah. So it's so hard to tell, but I mean, you can't beat the athletic profile. The guy could jump out of the gym.
Absolutely.
Right? So if you can add some skills there and be a very cheap option, again, that you developed a backup center on your team. So we'll see what happens going forward.
I have a question for you guys before we move off of this. Do you think, I mean, this front office has always been ahead of the curve. We've seen them have all these moves ready before, whatever. Do you think there's a chance, being that we now have arguably the best 3-and-D dudes in the league, do you think there's a little bit of them asking Tibbs to not make the 5 as important as he's made it in the past? Being that now you have 2 of the best perimeter defenders. You have this era's version outside of Kawhi Leonard. This is what we were talking about with the Olympics, with Pippen being 2 of the best perimeter defenders in the game. Now, obviously, OG Bridges are not Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan. Nobody's ever getting
Right.
that. But in this era of basketball, they are, when you think about along the lines of who are the elite wing defenders. Because
Yeah.
Paul George is on the down.
Paul George and Kawhi Leonard.
They were before those guys. They didn't have a blocking center or a rim protecting center like that. There was a necessity, so to say. Do you believe that maybe the Knicks have had a conversation with Tom about maybe we won't have all the toys you want? Maybe make best with the toys you got and kind of make some adjustments on making the 5. Because they did not seek out a 5. And I think that's very weird, knowing that Mitchell Robinson, we know he's going to go out. Mitchell knows he's going to go out. It's not even us. He knows he's going to go out. Because every year he's like, oh, damn, here we go again. He's like, oh, damn, I'm busted. You know, and I'm going to go fishing with a broke leg. We know it's happening. I can't see them saying, nah, we ain't worried about that at all. Unless you're saying maybe we need to switch up a couple of the philosophies on how we make it important. Because you knew you were losing Hartenstein. From what they're saying, they knew they were going to probably lose him. The contract for the $72 million was on the table as soon as the season ended. That's what the rumor was. That they knew that someone can obviously come in like an OKC and take him. They never moved away from letting them know that they wanted him, but they knew what was the likelihood of what could happen. He's going to probably get lost due to the monies. All that time, they've been knowing all year. They've been knowing all year Hartenstein has been balling out of control. So they knew someone was going to get. This franchise made no attempt to find a reasonable. You gave all your assets basically in a trade, and then hey, it is what it is for Mikal Bridges. You never thought like, oh, maybe let's save one of those picks. Maybe we don't want to play it, but save one of those picks because we know Mitch is going down. Because the league overall, the 5 is not as important in most of the teams as it is with Tom Thibodeau. He's one of the old school coaches that believes in that 5 being a rim runner, a screener, and a shot blocker. There's not many teams in the league that subscribe to that kind of way of playing the game other than him. Is he maybe being told, let's move forward to something more modern than what you've been doing?
Well, Porty wasn't picking up Porty in the second round wasn't addressing center for you. That wasn't the move you were looking for.
I'll tell you what, it would have to be a stronger mandate than they should have done with Cam Reddish and playing Cam Reddish, because Tibbs is like a 6-year-old with ice cream. More is better when it comes to defense.
That's true.
More ice cream, better. So is the front office? They've never handled Thibodeau that way. Thibodeau is going to say, no, we have the 2 best perimeter defenders in the league right now, and we need a defensive center so we can crush people. But, are they able to mandate him like that? Is he is the front office capable of putting that kind of fence around him is what I'm curious to see. Because you're right, perimeter defense is kind of more important than rim protection at this point, just the way the game is going, because all of your dangers are out on the perimeter.
Absolutely.
And that could be, but that could also be why that, they stuck with someone like a Sims, right? Mm-hmm. Then they're saying, look, we're going to try and go forward with this guy as our backup center. And then, they brought Precious back because he could play both positions. They both probably can. Like you said, Ty, they probably can both play power forward and center. They need to. So maybe they feel like they have enough and they just signed Precious again because, he was the last really available option and he wanted to come back.
Good value at $6 million.
Yeah. So maybe they just decided, like you said, they put all this money into these 2 wing defenders now. They have, Julius hopefully is coming back healthy. So they have another guy who can rebound on the inside. Mm-hmm. Maybe you're right. Maybe that's exactly what they did. And they spoke to the coach and like, hey, we're going to try it this way, make it work. And that's not the first time. Like, that's not the first time that happens in sports. That happens a lot in sports where the general manager's like, I got you players, make it work.
Make it work.
Like, that's your job. So it is going to be interesting to see how this unfolds going forward. Speaking of Thibodeau, they kept him. So Joe, you were wrong. Only kidding. Only kidding.
No, every time I'm right, the first thing I say is that I'll be wrong about the next two things.
So apparently they signed him through extended him, through the 27-28 season. That's still just a report. There's really nothing confirmed about it. So, but it would make sense. You know how the Knicks are about certain things. So, I don't love him. I don't think any of us love him. But with the success he's had, it's very hard not to extend him, especially with what he did last year with like a mash unit of players, especially in the playoffs. It was really hard not to extend him. The team likes him. They play hard for him. Yeah, that's in professional sports. That's half the battle. So, I'm not his biggest fan. And the minute they slip up, I'm going to be the first one to be like, they shouldn't have kept him. But congrats to him. Any other comments you guys want to add on this extension?
I think it makes sense to extend him because the most important guy in the locker room loves him, and that's the story of the whole thing. We always talk about how great coaches are, and I do believe that there's just some flat out great coaches like Pat Riley, like Popovich. These guys are just gifted coaches, and they can probably get the most out of an orange. This is how it is with them. But in saying that, I'm going to go the whole Phil Jackson route. You're only as good as those damn players you got that buy into your crap. That's really what it comes down to. Those special talents that believe in the actual coach and what he's doing. And what we have here, whether we dislike Thibodeau and don't like his flaws, which I'm not the biggest fan of, clearly, but don't matter because their best player loves him. He buys into everything, and then the guys that he's cool with, they buy into it. All the guys that are on the team are buying into it. And granted, we see maybe the ceilings that we see, like he'll drive you nuts. But also Brunson is saving him, similar to how Julius was saving him the 1 year also. He had great years because the players bought into what he wanted, and they had excellent years. Julius during the bubble, he had his coming out party. He had one of the greatest runs in Knicks history as an individual talent. He bought in. So when Thibodeau started slipping, they made the little moves and brought in Derrick Rose, who bought into him, and then they take off again. So, you've seen these things where you think that Thibodeau is a dead duck in the water, and then, he starts quacking and somebody comes in and basically takes one breadcrumb and he floats off on it and be like, oh, somebody another duck hunt here. Definitely aging myself in the Nintendo shootout. But this is what you see with him. He's found guys that are willing, and it's usually the best player that buys into what he wants. Because at the end of the day, we might not like who he is, but he loves winning. And I think the passion that for him winning and his dedication to basketball, I think if you are also that type of player who gives your life to this game, he's probably the best marriage you can have as a coach. His limited ceiling, because he loves his game. He's married to basketball. Somebody like Brunson, who's a lifer. I mean, when any interview you hear him talk about it, even as much as an ass clown as Josh is, which I love it because I think he's funny as hell. But he loves basketball, whether he wants to say it or not. Those guys are all bought in, and they got a passionate coach. So they love him. They're playing 50 minutes for him. OG even said he loved him. I mean, it makes sense.
He came back. He could have gone anywhere. He did come back.
And you know what? Because he could have got the monies anywhere. Literally with me. So
he could have went to play for Nick Nurse, his former coach.
Yep. A lot about Nick Nurse. He didn't want none of the Nurse because
he needs a nurse now to bandage up all those things that he's got going on, man.
Well, they used to call Nick Nurse the Tom Thibodeau of Canada. That's what they used to call him. They used to call him that because they felt he was a lot like Tom. So he's like, I won't take the Canadian version. I'll take this. That's just something about Nick Nurse. He's like, that's all right. We'll go to Tom Thibodeau, who has the reputation of being someone that players don't want to play for. But I don't know about the rest of the league. But if you watch those guys in those pods with Tom, those guys love playing for him.
Yeah, I was just gonna bring that up. I was just gonna say it seems like he seems like a really nice guy too. Like he might when he's coaching, he seems manic and frantic and all that stuff and yelling, but off the court, he seems like a really laid back, fun guy. Yeah, and that means a lot. So
and his commitment's unquestionable.
Yeah, I mean, like Ty said, he's married to basketball. He never got married. He said every relationship he has always coming second to the game. So, he might be lonely in a few years, but I'll have a lot of money to be lonely with, so that's okay. And hopefully a little success, a championship ring, one that he earned as a head coach, the head coach championship ring. Hopefully one of those. Speaking of championship rings.
Oh, yeah, this is a good one right here.
Carmelo Anthony was asked. He's won 3 gold medals with Team USA. He was asked if he would trade in those medals for one championship ring. And the video makes it look like he answered right away, but he didn't. He first said, no one's ever asked me this before. And he eventually said no. And the reason he said no was when you're wearing USA across your chest, it means something bigger than just the city that you play for. And I think that's a fair comment to make, but he also never won a championship ring. So it's hard for him to really speak on the topic, when you didn't win one. So on the one hand, I see what he's saying, but on the other hand, I don't know how genuine he actually is. So Joe, I sent this video. I let y'all read it. What do you think? Because I kind of know where you're going to go with this, but
stop it! And he would have. That's a ridiculous idea. You're going with an all-star team to go and beat teams from other countries, and that's more meaningful than winning a title against your peers, winning a title in the same era as Chris Paul and Dwayne Wade and LeBron and all of those guys, winning a chip in that era in New York, and those medals mean more. He lying. I'm sorry. No, it isn't. Those things are not equivalent. They're not even close to being equivalent, let alone having those Olympic medals being more meaningful. I don't buy it. Not for a second. I think it's the only answer he could give, but still, no way, man. Again, winning against Canada or France is more meaningful to you than winning in the era where your other guys were winning championships. All of your tight friends.
Yeah, I mean that's a fair point. I can't argue.
So
I can't argue with it.
I don't believe it for a sec. If it is, there's something fundamentally wrong with him as a player.
Damn, tell us how you feel, Joe.
No, seriously. If not winning a title in the NBA is not as important as traveling off with your boys and beating up on France.
I will say this about the way.
There's something wrong with you as a player. You don't have your priorities straight.
I will say this about him. He adapted very well to the international style of play, right? He was always really, really good on those teams. And we've seen with Melo, especially when he was here, he has to trust his teammates or else he doesn't pass him the ball. That's pretty much what it boils down to. Like we saw that a lot when he was a Knick. So on those teams, of course he's going to trust everyone. They're all great players. So I can see from a fit standpoint where he says that he wouldn't want to do that because in his mind, he was able to mesh his game with the greatest players and win those medals. So I see, but I see what you're saying as well. I would kind of tend to what you say because to us here, winning an NBA championship means more than an Olympic medal. And then we all feel that way.
There's no higher mountain to climb in the game of basketball.
Right. But but I don't play. I'm not a player. So I can't really say that. Like, I don't know what I'm taking him at his word, but I kind of agree with you that he's not telling it. It's not the whole truth there. Maybe 2 of the medals.
There's a lot of great players in this league that have Olympic medals.
Yeah.
Not very many of them have NBA championships.
Yeah. Yeah. He also has a bronze medal too. That's another thing. He does have a bronze medal as well. So maybe trade that one. Would you trade the bronze medal for the championship ring? Ty. If it were you, would you trade all three of those medals for a championship ring?
I'd be at the first flea market that's willing to melt those damn and say, do you want them in coins or do you want them in a necklace? And then on top of it, they're not made out of all gold anyway. They're made out of silver with gold. Hell yeah, you can take those damn medals. You know, I love watching, and we talked about watching Melo with his son. You know, this is something I've been following a little bit more maybe than you guys, as far as, you know, watching Cayenne play and seeing the development of him being young, blah, 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 blah. With that being said, and seeing him get it out of the mud, the kid's a really good player. It's not like he's not Melo's son, and therefore, like what we're seeing with Bronny James, just keep it a buck, where it's about his father getting him in the door. This kid is earning his keep. He's earning his keep, and when he gets selected by a college, which it probably will be Syracuse, I mean, makes sense. He's got letters from them and different offers, and they're earned. It's not like somebody is giving him and doing him a favor. He's the number one basketball player in New York State. He's that good. He's a good player. That being said, the dream always is to go to the NBA. I've never heard someone dream to go to the Olympics that's an NBA player. It's just not what it is. The upper crust and the echelon has always been about rings, albeit I will say this. The rings have become important to a degree, and now it's been about mostly guys securing the bag and being that their job is to be an NBA player as opposed to being NBA players who want to win. The winning has become secondary to a lot of talents. Sure. You know, when you go back to Carmelo Anthony, he had the opportunity, as we all know, where he could have been with Bosh. I mean, not with Bosh, but he could have been with Wade and LeBron. And Melo's mission or his lane was to secure his bag for those years instead of opting out and giving back a year to Denver. He didn't want it. He wanted the security of the money. You know, Melo's also been a player that says, oh, I'll only play in a certain market. I don't want to play in a small market, even if it meant maybe that was a better opportunity for him to win a ring. This has not been something a little bit different for Melo. I mean, I'm watching him with his kid. I doubt he's telling his kid to go and be the best you can be in the Olympics. I don't think that's happening. I'm thinking that he's like, go out and compete and you can be an NBA talent and I'd want to see you win big. But that's never, to me, has been a priority because when we think back to Melo coming to the Knicks, what was the argument? Could he have waited a year so the team would be more competitive? So you could win. He's like, no, I'll take my money. I want the money. You know, his lane for winning has been a little off kiltered in my opinion. You know, when watching but if you watch the pattern of Carmelo Anthony, he's won his championship in college. He's come here, and the one knock I've had on him, I thought he was just as good as LeBron, but it didn't seem like it mattered to him to be as good as LeBron or to prove out night now. Now the first 3 years, lights out. He torched LeBron every time you watched them play head-to-head. His mission was to torch LeBron, to say, I'm the number one dude. Then that kind of went away. It kind of went away somewhere. And you're like, well, why is Melo not mentioned with LeBron? And they're like, LeBron's that much better. I don't buy that he's that much better than Melo. I think it was Melo saying, maybe that's not as important for me, what he's doing. Maybe I don't want to be the face of the league. You see guys turn away from that. Durant turns away from it. You watch him. He's a guy that would rather blend than be the man. He don't want to be the face of a franchise of a league. He'd rather be a subsidiary player and follow Kyrie Irving and go behind Steph and be one of the guys. He doesn't want to be the guy. He wants to be one of the guys. So when we look at Carmelo Anthony, this kind of is par for the course with him saying these things about the ring versus the medals. He's even said when he won his last gold medal when he was in the Olympics This is like his biggest moment ever. He said, "This was my moment. This is everything." And everybody's like, "This is everything." You don't want to win a
Winning
title?
the national title at Syracuse wasn't
Wasn't.
stop that.
He's Olympic Melo, and he has been on record prior to even this, stating the importance of those. Which, look, I'm like Joe. I shake my damn head. What I wasn't buying when he said in the interview was, "I don't know what math he's doing, but I don't give a damn if you won a Michael Phelps kind of medal. Like you had that much of a collection. One title in New York. I don't give a damn if nobody will want to buy it. You want to say we're New York biased? Kick damn rocks. One title in New York. And guess who's understanding that more than anybody now? Jalen Brunson understands it. He's building up that legacy. That he's like, I took less money, and I'm talking about winning. Now, when it does happen, because I do think it will happen, hopefully we'll be alive to see it because of where this team is at. You won't be able to talk nothing about Jalen Brunson without mentioning the New York Knicks is his biggest accomplishment. He's going to be a god.
Well, yeah.
A freaking god. Melo would have been a god. Not an Olympic champion, not an NBA champion. He would have been a god. See, this is a big difference. So don't tell me 3 medals, 4 medals, 5 medals, whatever.
I'm surprised he could say it with a straight face.
But he did say it. Maybe he believes it. I don't know what the Syracuse education is, but maybe he buys it. That's
you wonder. I mean, you're being put on the spot, right? Like he's put on the spot. If he says yes, he can't win, right? If he says he would, it's hard to win there too, especially in this current climate, like where if you're not patriotic, you're out the door. In this current climate, like I said, it's.
I wonder if
me personally
made it harder for him to answer.
Huh?
Maybe Brunson taking less had something to do with him answering the way he did. But I'm just thinking because then the next thing that follows is, why didn't you take less money to go to New York?
Well, did you hear what he said about Brunson? He did say.
He said he never would have done that.
I would have never. And it's like, well, that's why I'm not being funny. I've done personally against Melo. I actually liked Melo when he came into the league, so I don't want anybody thinking, I hate Melo. But this was the knock on him, was that you took money all the time. Money was your choice. So it behooved a lot of Knicks fans who probably didn't like Melo was like, well, dude, if you had took that little bit discount, maybe we win differently. Maybe we don't give up all the assets that could have gotten you maybe a Chris Paul.
Oh,
that's why I'm saying, because if he says that winning an NBA championship was that important, the next thing is, why didn't you do what Brunson did?
Right.
Winning was so important for you. Maybe he sensed a trap in that.
And they still could have got Chris Paul. Don't even get me on that topic. That's a topic I never want to revisit again in my life.
Yeah, that was ridiculous. That's the most absurd thing I've seen. I won't bring it up. That does trigger all of it.
That is a trigger transaction for me. That one is one that will trigger me about the Knicks. I have plenty that do it, but that's one.
That is definitely. I got that out of all the Knicks things, that to me was the one that I'm like, this makes no damn sense. You already knew what could happen. Why would you?
They still could have made the trade for Chandler. That's the thing. They could have gotten both of them. That's the thing that bothers me the most. They still could have gotten Chandler. It's
absurd.
Whatever. I can't even talk about it.
I just think he was. I think I agree with Eric in this sense. I think he was put on the spot for that. But I also believe Melo is kind of okay with having medals. I don't think that it's. We've heard him talk about it. Maybe it's him convincing himself that the medals are just as important, and not to bring up the ring because he couldn't get one. Because people ask, why didn't you go with the Three Amigos? Why didn't you go with those? And now all of a sudden now you find yourself explaining about money. Oh,
yeah.
I always thought the team that he should have went to was Portland initially. Like when he was picking out teams to go to and leaving the Knicks, like they're like, well, what do you want to be traded to? I'm like, Dame and McCollum were at the position where they were like a mellow away from being very competitive. He's like, nah, let me go to OKC.
And he ended up there anyway. He ended up anyway. I will say this about him. Final thought on Melo. I think his experience in Denver early on in his career with George Karl, if you listen to him talk about it, I think that shaped his mentality of how he looked at his basketball career. I think because of that interaction, I think he eventually said, you know what? I see the way this league is. I'm gonna make my money. I'm gonna do what's best for me. And I think that's really what changed, because when he first came into the league, he was very much, like Ty said, more of a, I don't want to say he was exactly like LeBron. He was always a better scorer, had better offensive moves than LeBron, but he was definitely, he was a willing passer. He would do a lot more of he played a lot more of the team game. And I do think the situation with Karl really, and having the influence also, I love Allen Iverson, but Allen Iverson was also a guy who liked his jump shot and liked to shoot a lot. So I think having those influences early in his career, Kobe's another one. He was friends with Kobe. Kobe liked to shoot a lot as well. I think a lot of those influences impacted him. And then throughout his career, he just developed this shell, in a sense, where he's like, I want to get paid. I want my money, because I see how the business can be. So
that's valid.
It's a shame.
That's valid, what you just said. That's valid.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know for certain. Again, it's just how I read the situation. But regardless, I'm with you guys. I would trade those medals as fast as I could, especially if I was a Knick. If I was a Knick, oh yeah, I would definitely, it wouldn't even be, forget it. It wouldn't even be a question. So
I'd trade them all for an NCAA championship.
Well, he has one of those. He has one of those. So
Just saying. His most impressive feat is Syracuse winning in the field of 64, which is a very, very hard thing to do.
Yeah, that's the toughest. That is the toughest, to me, tournament in sports.
Single game elimination, game after game.
Every game. Yep. And you play consecutive, like you play a day off, you play a day off, you play. And if you have to make it into the tournament, you're playing, because sometimes you're playing consecutive days. It's a crazy, crazy, crazy setup. So, all right, guys. Well, we had a show.
Let's get back in.
We did our first show since July, so it was real. I don't know when we're going to do another one, but
we are officially 67 days away from the start of the season.
Yeah, I just said we're like 6 weeks away from camp, right?
We're starting to hear a couple of things on the schedule now. We know about Christmas coming up. That's
true.
San Antonio, I think it's the Christmas and opening day. They're estimating it probably Boston.
Boston.
That should be pretty interesting.
And I feel like we've been playing them every year to open the season. Am I wrong with that? Am I missing?
No, it's all the time. But on Christmas, we'll get the present of seeing Precious Achiuwa cover Victor Wembanyama.
Love it. I'm down. I'm ready.
With his two Panthers, that he might get them.
That was crazy. Oh my God, that was crazy.
He's walking around with two Panthers. Well, two Lions, I think it was, right?
Yeah, two Lions.
I don't know. It was two big cats, though. It's something I would not do. That's all I want to say.
That's not Morris the cat. That's for sure.
Well, he just got his money, so now he got his money. So he's like, all right, I got paid. I can go with the Tiger.
He's going Mike Tyson on it. Every cage is in the backyard.
Yeah, that's ludicrous. That's ludicrous.
All right, guys, let's shut this one down. You guys have anything you want to tell the people?
Thanks for all your support during the year. We're looking forward to doing this again in the 24-25 season. We're thinking it's going to be a great one, and we want you all to ride along, man. You can catch me at Upstate Show, AKU, for all Knicked Up at X, and the fan page.
Sorry.
Yes. I thought that was it. I thought you did the mic drop. You were out.
Gotta go.
All right, Ty, anything you want to tell the people?
Just keep following us. We're going to try to give you guys all the different content we can find. You know, it's a dry season, so we try to sprinkle a little water on it now and then, whatever news comes across. So stay in touch with us on the fan page, All Knicked Up on Facebook. Follow E on the Twitter account. That's his bread and butter. Likes all that action in the swamp. We let that be the swamp dweller out there. But definitely appreciate you guys. Shout out to June. That was his birthday today. He's a follower of the show. Big up to him and all the other supporters. Much love. And keep us in mind. And make sure you share the videos and the information. That's just very important for us to help grow what we're trying to work here. And, we're basketball fans, not just Knicks fans. So bring in anyone who wants to talk the hoop game. We're willing and we pay attention to the entire league, not just the Knicks, but, our hearts is just Knicks. So make sure you visit us and keep in contact.
Yes. Well said. Well said. I agree with everything Ty said. As he mentioned, if you want to hit me up on X, it's all @all_Nick_up for the show. My personal handle is @finally33, spell finale 33. I do a show called Straight Outta Gotham. We've kind of been on a little bit of a hiatus too because we've both been busy, but I think we're recording this weekend, so we'll have a new show coming out. The new trailer for Kraven the Hunter just dropped. I shared it on our page. You can check it out over there if you haven't seen it yet. And yeah, as Ty was saying, this page, our group, if you guys want, let us know if you have anything you want us to talk about, to discuss. We take suggestions. We like talking hoops, so it'd be easy for us to just hop onto another topic. And yeah, season's coming, so we'll be back at this more on a weekly schedule. Hopefully my traveling schedule isn't as busy, but yeah, we'll be coming at you. When is opening day? What date is it?
22nd. October 22nd.
Yeah. So October 22nd is opening day. As Joe said, it's about 8 weeks from now, right? 2 months.
Can't wait. I'm miserable.
Yeah.
I'm miserable. I'll be glad when it starts.
All right, guys, let's wrap this up. So for Ty and Joe, I'm Eric. You're watching All Knicked Up, and we will see you next time.